Hello there and welcome to yet another edition of your favorite transportation program on television. On the Lagos Transportation Agenda, as you well know, we highlight current events, topical issues, as well as explore present and evolving trends in the dynamic world of transportation. I'm your host, Austin Ian. On today's show, we are taking a look at the e-hailing sector of public transportation in Lagos State. You know, the type where you have to order a vehicle, a taxi cab, using an app on your phone. Since 2014, with the launch of Uber, Lagos has seen an unprecedented rise in the number of e-hailing ride platforms. In 2016, Uber was followed by Bolt, then known as Taxify, which set the stage for competition in that sector. Since then, Lagos has seen ride-hailing platforms like LagRide and InDrive, etc. Unfortunately, with the rise in platforms, there has come a lowering of sorts of standards in terms of safety and security, as well as the deplorable condition of some of the vehicles that are used for these hailing services. The Lagos State government has decided to intervene in that respect by coming up with some measures to engage the e-hailing platforms in order to ensure safety and security for the people of Lagos State. To discuss these engagements, among other things, I have with me on the show today the Director of Transport Operations here at the Lagos State Ministry of Transportation, the person of Engr Olasunkanmi Ojo. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. It's nice to have me on your program. I'm glad.
Engineer Owuro and I will be discussing the Lagos State government's ongoing engagement with e-hailing platforms and what the future portends for that engagement, what its objectives are and what the prospects are. When the Lagos Transportation Agenda returns after this time out, please stay with us.
Welcome on board the newly retrofitted light ferry, where innovation meets comfort on water. As you step onto our state-of-the-art vessel, you'll notice the modern design and enhanced facilities that prioritize your safety and enjoyment. Our retrofitting process has not only upgraded the aesthetics, but also improved the performances of the boat, ensuring a smoother and faster journey across the beautiful Lagos waterways. Feel free to explore the spacious sitting areas equipped with comfortable amenities such as life jackets for all passengers, a first aid box, fire extinguisher, all for a relaxing ride. Our knowledgeable crew is here to assist you, making your journey as enjoyable as possible. Join us as we set sail towards a more efficient and eco-friendly future, embracing technology while celebrating the vibrant culture of Lagos. Thank you for choosing Light Ferry, where every ride is a memorable adventure.
Welcome back on the Lagos Transportation Agenda. My guest today, as I said, is the Director of Transport Operations here at the Lagos State Ministry of Transportation, Engr Olasunkanmi Ojo. Let me start by asking you to just give us an overview of the Lagos State government's e-hailing scheme in terms of its objectives and achievements so far. Because I start with this because that's the one in which you have direct control over, before we now go on to private sector players.
Once again, I say thank you very much. We all know that the e-hailing or e-taxi transportation, is a subsector of the overall public transportation system,
yes,
worldwide. And of course, we have entities, playing in that sector,
yeah,
in Lagos State, and the Ministry of Transportation is in charge of managing these entities. You mentioned some of the names earlier: Uber, Bolt, LagRide, InDrive, and so forth. We came up with, a regulation,
okay,
to manage that subsector. So we came up with one, the need for licensing. You can't just come into that sector,
yeah,
and be a player. We have some conditions. We call it categorization. You must have a certain number of fleets in, your entity.
Minimum.
We have a minimum that you should have. You can have as many as possible.
Yes.
So we now did categorization A, B, C, D. We went as far as, also looking at some are app providers only, some are apps and cabs. That is, like Lag right now has an app, and same time it has, cabs that run on the system. So we did that categorization, and we now spelled out conditions that the entity must meet in terms of the vehicles on the fleet, the statutory documents that those vehicles must have, the basic requirements for the drivers, because safety is also a major concern.
Yes.
Must have a driver's license, must have a luxury card, that is Lagos State Drivers Institute training, and all of that. So we came up with a regulation to manage that subsector of transportation. Initially, we didn't go technology, we didn't go scientific.
Yes.
But sometimes 2024 January, we came up with use of technology to manage that space. And we have a consultant who has an app, and part of the regulation is that all ELE entities must have an API. What I mean is application program interface. So they're all linked up, they are synchronized with the app that the consultant has built,
Yes.
of which the ministry has a back-end access to see the live transactions, the movement, point of origin, destination, and when the trip ends, and all that. So that we are able to also manage the drivers too, because the drivers' details will have to be uploaded, the vehicles' details will have to be uploaded,
Yes.
and even if you make a call, you have a phone number,
Yes.
and we can also trace the passenger in case there are issues or challenges. That we have done.
See. So you talked about leveraging on technology. So, we know that, of course, there may be some challenges. What are those, if any? What are they, and how have you been able to surmount them? Because you have talked about both the Lagos State-owned Lag Ride and all that, as well as this other private sector. The regulation cuts across. But what have been the challenges so far, especially since you pivoted to technology?
Yes, the first thing is that people are always hesitant to, adapt to change. So many fears, so many wrong ideas about,
Exactly.
the old initiative. So we had to battle that with stakeholders' engagement. I mean, we spoke with the entities, we met with we call the drivers operators.
Yes.
And we call the companies, operating entities. So we met with the all relevant stakeholders and made them see reason why they have to, sync with the direction of the ministry and the state government in having the use of technology to manage e-hailing services in the state. That is one. Then for the operators too, we had to mandate that their vehicles be roadworthy. Because if their vehicle is not roadworthy, it makes a nonsense of the initiative, because it is a sort of a bit high level of transportation. You are no longer boarding the commercial buses. You don't want to be alone in the cab.
Yes.
And speaking you from wherever, from maybe your home, your office, to your last point of destination. So we have some backlashes, but I can tell you that we're doing fine.
Okay, I'm happy you mentioned the word backlashes, because it seems to me that there's a sticking point there when it comes to taxi license, because people have to pay for this license, I imagine. And as I was, going through researching this topic, I noticed that there's a particular instance which is a very senior legal practitioner, challenged this particular ruling, this particular guideline. I don't know if you're aware of it. Which I don't know how far he took his opposition to it, but he talked about the guidelines, especially in the area of licensing fees. He talked about how they are draconian rules, the previous rule, extant rules that don't back up these guidelines. So if you were aware of it, what would be your government response to that? Do you agree with those who say the license fees are maybe too high and they cut into the profits of drivers at the end of the day because they have to remit and all those things? What do you say to that?
Well, number one, let me say that I'm not aware of the objection that you have mentioned. I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
And in pegging the license fees, the state has been very, very considerate, and that is why we did that categorization.
Okay.
There are some entities that have large number of vehicles in their fleet.
Mm-hmm.
So those ones pay more than those who have, few numbers. So I think we've not really had issues where, the entities have come and said that the fees of, the license fees are on the high side. I'm not aware.
And, that's just a very minority.
Yes.
That's what to bring it to your attention. When we return after this time out on the Lagos transportation agenda, we will deal with related issues of personnel, human capacity and training, as well as other issues on the program after this time out.
Welcome on board the newly retrofitted light ferry where innovation meets comfort on water. As you step onto our state-of-the-art vessel, you'll notice the modern design and enhanced facilities that prioritize your safety and enjoyment. Our retrofitting process has not only upgraded the aesthetics, but also improved the performances of the boat, ensuring a smoother and faster journey across the beautiful Lagos waterways. Feel free to explore the spacious seating areas equipped with comfortable amenities such as life jackets for all passengers, a first aid box, fire extinguisher, all for a relaxing ride. Our knowledgeable crew is here to assist you, making your journey as enjoyable as possible. Join us as we set sail towards a more efficient and eco-friendly future, embracing technology while celebrating the vibrant culture of Lagos. Thank you for choosing Light Ferry, where every ride is a memorable adventure.
If you're just joining, it's the Lagos Transportation Agenda. Welcome back. And I'm with the Director of Transport Operations here at the Lagos State Ministry of Transportation, Engr Olasunkanmi Ojo. Director, so what's the level of compliance so far since you've been leveraging on technology and all that? And what has been your method of enforcing this compliance?
Thank you once again. The level of compliance has been very encouraging because if an entity, that is those companies, playing in that sector, do not have the API to synchronize with the app for monitoring and regulatory purposes of the ministry, such a company cannot operate in the first place. For such ones, we cannot even allow such ones to operate in that space. Those are the conditions. So we do pre-license requirements, and it's part of it. And their own software experts would have to sit down with our own software experts, and there will be pilots programs to actually ascertain if there will be a plugin. So if there's a plugin, of course, such ones can be allowed to, operate. The level of compliance has been encouraging on the part of the entities. For enforcement, yes, we do enforce in so many ways, but enforcement is last resorts, on the ladder. We engage such ones, and oftentimes when we engage them, they comply because they do not want us to go to the level of enforcement. But sometimes we do enforce. We impound some of the vehicles in their fleet, and they do what is needful, and such enforcement is lifted.
And now, can you just give us a brief overview of reporting methods? How do I, as a passenger or as a driver, report it when a driver or a passenger is behaving in a manner that I think endangers the security or the safety of that trip?
First of all, for every entity operating has to have space for what we call panic buttons must be on the app. So for the driver, maybe the one that is under attack, he could easily press the panic button. If it's the passenger also, that one could also access the panic button. So that escalates the crisis to the what we call the entities, platform, private platform. And of course, from our own end, if the trip is not completed, such trips are flagged, and we can begin investigation. In other words, the ministry also has platforms or hotlines that people can easily call or send distress calls to. And of course, when we get such calls, we'll liaise with the police or the necessary security agency to help address the issue. And the numbers, can I read out the numbers?
Yes, sure.
070
Okay.
2000 9000.
Okay.
070 2000 4000.
Okay. 070 2000 9000. That's one. Then 070 2000 4000.
Yes.
Wonderful. So earlier in the interview, you talked about driver training, very key component of competence, and I know that goes on with drivers in the non-EV, the regular terrestrial, ecosystem, so to say, with the help of the Lagos State Drivers Institute. Talk about the level of participation, of e-hailing drivers.
One key requirement or condition to upload a driver on any platform of the entities, that is e-taxi companies, is that the driver must have gone through training with Lagos State Drivers Institute, because safety is a major concern, for the state and for the ministry. The driver has to be aware that he has to conduct himself safely and he has to drive safely, because the lives of both the passenger and other road users is also dependent on how careful or how reckless he maneuvers his vehicle. So it's mandatory, and part of what we do is, or what we're going to do right now, is that for any entity that does not ensure that drivers on this platform has undergone or did undergo LASRI, will be penalized. Just to ensure that those who are operators, that is the drivers, drive safely and they get that training. However, the entities are doing their best possible to ensure that drivers go for training.
Now, before I let you go, just look into the crystal ball from your vantage point as DTO, and say, where do you see the e-taxi ecosystem in the next 5-10 years from now, and what message do you have for us, the public, who use these services, who operate these services, the companies that operate these services, as the case may be?
Well, number one, the art space has been experiencing a boom since 2014.
Yes.
And we're looking at a compound annual growth of about 13%, from 2024 to 2029. So that is to say, there will be growth in that sector because we keep having applicants, proponents, coming into that space. The reason why we've not licensed so much is that we are ensuring that they do the needful before they are licensed. We have so many applications pending that we are working on. So growth. And besides, it's going to drive that aspect of sustainability in transportation because some of the licensees brought in electric vehicles. And with that, we reduce carbon emission, we reduce carbon footprint, and it's good for the environment, it's good for health, and less reliance on fossil fuel. The other part, there's increased competition. We said earlier, there were some players, initially, in that space.
Yes.
Thereafter, other players came in,
yes, exactly.
and we started having, options of, picking one entity, from the other, and some came up with negotiation. You could negotiate your trip price.
Exactly.
So
Quite a novel.
So that is competition, and which also has brought down cost of all the fee that passengers pay for their trips. In addition, we're looking at how technology will also play a role. AI, machine learning in determining so many variables. So we urge, investors to, come into that, transport space of e-taxi. And the government is willing to ensure that they are absorbed insofar as they meet up with the requirements for being a player in that sector. So, on the part of government, we are also upscaling our regulatory functions. Initially, we didn't have an app, we didn't have an API. Now I've got an API with all the entities, so we get live data. That's an improvement. And I said earlier in my discussion that we are also going to the level of ensuring compliance at the level of the entities. Before you upload a driver on your platform, the driver must have a last card, driver's license. If the driver does not meet that requirement, it means that that entity
itself
is complicit and will be fined. And I trust all the entities we have, they don't want such to happen. And the vehicle has statutory commercial papers that they must have for the route, for that trip. And driver's ID, vehicle's ID, then we talk about the trip, we talk about the operation. So we also, as the government, we will do our best possible to ensure that we scale our activities to match up with the growth that is expected in that transportation subsector.
Well said. Thank you so much, Engineer Owuro, DTO at the Ministry of Transportation.
Thank you.
Always a joy and a privilege to have an interview with you.
Thank you too. Thank you.
That's the size of our program today. Our discussion with Engineer Owuro of the Lagos State Ministry of Transportation on the state's engagement with e-taxi companies and e-hailing platforms. Thanks for watching. I hope you join me at this time next week as we return, God willing, with another edition of the Lagos Transportation Agenda. Till then, this is Austin Ian. Have a good one. Bye-bye.